Hello students, today we are going to study geometric design of railway tracks. Now what do you mean by geometric design? It is very important for tracks to have proper geometric design in order to ensure the safe and smooth running of trains at maximum permissible speeds carrying the heaviest axle loads. The speed and axle load of the train are very important and sometimes are also included as parameters to be considered while arriving at the geometric design of the track. Gradients in the track including grade compensation, rising gradient and falling gradient, curvature of the track including horizontal and vertical curves, transition curves, sharpness of the curves in terms of radius or degree of the curve, cant or super elevation on curves, etc. And the last one is alignment of the track including straight as well as curved alignment. Now, necessity for geometric design. The need for proper geometric design of a track arises because of the following consideration. The first one is to ensure the smooth and safe running of trains. Next one is to achieve maximum speed. Another one is to carry heavy axle loads. The next one is to avoid accidents and derailments due to defective permanent way. Another one is to ensure that the track requires least maintenance, and the last one is for good aesthetics. Now the next topic is the gradient. Gradients are provided to negotiate the rise or fall in the level of the railway track. A rising gradient is one in which the track rises in the direction of the movement of traffic, and a down or falling gradient is one in which the track loses elevation in the direction of the movement of traffic. Now, objective of gradient. Gradients are provided to meet the following objective. The first one is to reach various stations at different elevations. Next one is to follow the natural contours of the ground to the extent possible. And the last one is to reduce the cost of earthwork. Now the types of gradients. The following types of gradients are used on the railways. The first one is ruling gradient. Another one is pusher or helper gradient. The next one is momentum gradient, and the last one is gradient in station yards. Now we will start with the ruling gradient. The ruling gradient is the steepest gradient that exists in a section. It determines the maximum load that can be hauled by a locomotive on that section. While deciding the ruling gradient of a section, it is not only the severity of the gradient but also its length as well as its position with respect to the gradients on both sides that have to be taken into consideration. The extra force P required by a locomotive to pull a train of weight W on a gradient with an angle of inclination Q is P, which will be equals to W sin Q. Now, it will be nearly equals to W tan Q because the value of Q is very small. So, tan Q will be also known as gradient. So, it will be equals to W into gradient. Now, in case of plain terrain, the ruling gradient will be 1 in 150 to 1 in 200, and in case of hilly terrain, it will be equals to 1 in 100 to 1 in 150. Now, the next one is momentum gradient. The momentum gradient is steeper than the ruling gradient and can be overcome by a train because of the momentum it gathers while running on the section. In valleys, a falling gradient is sometimes followed by a rising gradient. In such a situation, a train coming down a falling gradient acquires good speed and momentum, which gives additional kinetic energy to the train and allow it to negotiate gradients steeper than the ruling gradient. In sections with momentum gradients, there are no obstacles provided in the form of signals, etc., which may bring the train to a critical juncture. The quantity of motion of a moving body measured as a product of its mass and velocity. Now the next is the pusher or helper gradient. In hilly areas, the rate of rise of the terrain becomes very important when trying to reduce the length of the railway line, and therefore sometimes gradients steeper than the ruling gradient are provided to reduce the overall cost. It means that when we want to reduce the cost of the construction, then we have to use the pusher or helper gradient in place of ruling gradient. In such situation, one locomotive is not adequate to pull the entire load. An extra locomotive is required. When the gradient of the section is so steep as to necessitate the use of an extra engine for pushing the train, it is known as pusher or helper gradient. Now the next one is gradient in station yards. The gradients in station yards are quite flat due to the following reasons. The first one is to prevent standing vehicles from rolling and moving away from the yard due to the combined effect of gravity and strong winds. To reduce the additional resistive forces required to start a locomotive to the extent possible. It may be mentioned here that generally yards are not leveled completely and certain flat gradients are provided in order to ensure good drainage. The maximum gradient prescribed in station yards on Indian Railway is 1 in 400, while the recommended gradient is 1 in 1000. Grade compensation on curves. Curves provided extra resistance to the movement of trains. As a result, gradients are compensated to the following extent on curves. On broad gauge tracks, 0.04% per degree of the curve or 70 by R, whichever is minimum. On meter gauge tracks, 0.03% per degree of curve or 52.5 upon R, whichever is minimum. On narrow gauge tracks, 0.02% per degree of curve or 35 upon R, whichever is minimum, where R is the radius of the curve in meter. Now next one is the super elevation or cant. When train negotiates on a horizontal curve, it is subjected to centrifugal force, which acts or pushes the train away from the center of the curve, which results in increase of the pressure on the outer wheel. Now to counter the effect of centrifugal force, the level of the outer rail is raised above the inner rail by certain amount. This raised elevation of outer rail is known as super elevation. Super elevation is denoted by E. Objects of providing super elevation. To encounter the effect of centrifugal force, this will result in the faster movement of train on curves. To provide equal distribution of wheel loads on two rails so that there is no tendency of track to move out of position due to more load on outer rail. To provide an even and smooth running track and to ensure comfortable ride to the passengers and safe movement of goods. Now forces acting on the train are, first one is weight of the vehicle and the next one is centrifugal force. Here the train is shown like this and this is the rail and this is the difference in the level of two rails, which is known as super elevation. It is denoted by E. Now this is the centrifugal force mv square by r and this is the weight of the vehicle, that is mg. Now this angle is theta, so this angle is also theta and this angle is also theta. Now the component of this mv square by r on this axis will be equals to mv square by r into cos theta. Now the component of mg on this axis will be equals to mg cos theta and on this axis will be equals to mg sin theta. Now friction force is not considered on deriving equation. For minimum cant, mg sin theta, that is this, will be equals to mv square by r cos theta, which is shown here. Now sin theta upon cos theta will be equals to tan theta and it will be equals to v square upon gr and m cancel out. Now from triangle ABC, tan theta will be equals to E by G, that is the distance G. Now super elevation E will be equals to GV square upon small g into R, where capital G and R are in meter and V is in meter per second and small g is in meter per second square. Now E will be equals to, we have to convert the value of capital V in terms of meter per second from kilometer per hour. So we need to multiply here the value of V by 0.278. So the formula will be equals to G into 0.278 V whole square upon 9.81 R. The value of small g will be equals to 9.81. After solving this, we will have the value of super elevation or cant, that is small e, will be equals to GV square upon 127 R, where V is in kilometer per hour and E is in meter. Now for broad gauge track, G will be equals to 1.676 meter. Now maximum limit of super elevation. For broad gauge track, if speed is less than 120 km per hour, then maximum super elevation will be equals to 16.50 centimeter, and if speed is greater than 120 km per hour, then maximum super elevation will be equals to 18.50 centimeter. Similarly for meter gauge and for narrow gauge, it is shown here. Now maximum value of super elevation is 1 by 10 of the gauge. When loads or pressure on the both rail is equal, the cant provided is known as equilibrium cant. Now the next one is cant deficiency. The actual cant is provided on the basis of equilibrium speed or average speed of different trains. For the trains running higher, the speed of equilibrium speed, actual cant requirement is more than provided. This shortage of cant is known as cant deficiency. Cant deficiency is the difference between the equilibrium cant necessary for the maximum permissible speed on a curve and the actual cant provided. Now limit of cant deficiency. Cant deficiency is limited because higher cant deficiency gives much discomfort to passengers and extra pressure and lateral force on outer rail. Now in first column of this table, track is shown. In second column, speed less than 100 km per hour, and in third column, speed greater than 100 km per hour is shown. Now for broad gauge, cant is limited to 7.6 cm when the speed is less than 100 km per hour and 10 cm when speed is greater than 100 km per hour. Similarly for meter gauge and narrow gauge is shown here. That is all about the geometric design of railway tracks. Thank you very much, students.